Hello and welcome to the Paddock in Belgium at Zolder, the circuit, with some not sunny conditions. It's slightly raining today. But the problem is also for the trucks being on track right now, it is going to be a difficult qualification, but everyone is in a good mood since it is round 6 of the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And we are so glad that you are joining us here at Belgium in Zolder. And I'm so glad to talk to finally Judith Ehrmann, because we've asked her a lot, we must admit, but I'm so glad that you're here for us. Right now we're going to speak in German and I'm going to translate. Ich habe gerade schon angekündigt, diese Bedingungen jetzt hier bei Regen sind natürlich schwierig. Wie stellt ihr euch von der mechanischen Seite drauf ein?
Ja, also es ist natürlich, wie du schon gesagt hast, sehr schwierig. Wir versuchen einfach das Bestmögliche rauszuholen. Wir machen das Auto recht weich. Wir schauen mal, was passiert. Im Moment regnet es nicht so stark. Wir wissen nicht genau, trocknet es vielleicht doch noch ab oder was für Bedingungen haben wir wirklich zum Qualifying. Deshalb wird viel in den letzten Minuten passieren und dann hoffen wir, dass wir gut aufgestellt sind und einen guten Startplatz erreichen können.
Judith Ehrmann is chief mechanic at the team of Schwaben Truck, and she says, yeah, we're going to make the conditions for the truck as soft as possible. Also important in the turns, of course, in this condition. But she says it's not so much rain, and maybe the track is going to be drying during the qualification. So it needs then going to make some decisions very, very last second or last minute. Generell natürlich diese Strecke hier in Zolder ist relativ kurz, aber sehr, sehr anspruchsvoll. Wie stellt ihr euch darauf ein?
Das Allerwichtigste in Zolder sind die Bremsen. Die Strecke ist vor allem unter trockenen Bedingungen sehr hart für die Bremsen. Dort muss man einfach jeden Ausfall verhindern und wirklich vorab sehr genau arbeiten, dass wir dort optimal aufgestellt sind.
Herzlichen Dank. Viel Spaß heute. So I asked her the specialities of this track here at Zolder. She says, yes, the brakes, they're very, very important. You need to be hard on the brakes here, so you need a good brake management, and they're not going to work, hopefully, throughout the whole this weekend. And yes, but she seems very, very optimistic. So Judith Ehrmann, one of the very, very fine characters here in the One Truck family. We're here at Zolder, and it is called the Volumix Belgium Truck Grand Prix, also providing the Dutch Truck Racing Championship, Cup and Tourenwagen Trophy, and alongside the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, of course, which are you joining. And I read on the homepage that lumberjack T-shirts are kind of a dress code today, although there is not an official dress code. I tried to put on a lumberjack jacket. Chaz Dreycoat and Joachim Eberts are our commentators. I don't know if you read the memo of the dress code this weekend, but I think we do need some rain covers here.
Yes, indeed, Christina. Fantastic to have you back in our paddock. And hello, everybody. Chaz Dreycoat here, commentating from back in the UK. Luckily, it's not raining as much here. It's still a little bit miserable outside, admittedly. But no, I did not get the memo on the lumberjack attire, unfortunately. So I'm going to be making sure that I can sort that out for at least the first race later on and maybe the rest of the weekend. There we see Jamie Anderson, just getting prepared for the first qualifying session of the weekend. Jamie is having one hell of a campaign so far. As I've mentioned a few times, going into this season, he didn't have a single race victory outright to his name. Doggos. Very attentive doggo as well. But Jamie's now got 4 race wins already from just this season alone. It's been absolutely awesome to see it. And he's been a real star. He's won the last 3 reverse grid races, actually. He won the second one at the Nürburgring to top off his weekend, and then won both of the reverse grid races at Most. I'm getting so excited about it, I'm stumbling over myself. Now, of course, some of the British drivers will race with a very heavy heart this weekend after the passing of our Queen and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Her Royal Highness. Really took the country as a big shock just the other day, and of course they'll be racing with her in their minds. So, Jochen Hahn making his way out onto the circuit. Right place, right time for our cameraman. You can see Theo Calve getting out there as well. And what Christina was talking to Judith about earlier is very, very spot on, you know, because the setup around here is going to have to be very soft. You want the suspension to be able to absorb as much of the weight transfer as possible around here, because when you have the truck all stiff and set up to be very flat everywhere, it can really just skitter along the surface. You know, it doesn't really softly absorb itself into the road and keep a very flat sort of track down. underneath the machine. You know, the contact patch as such has to be so strong here, and you don't want it to be too stiff in case you just lift a wheel slightly, and then of course you lock up the tyres and you will go straight on. The number 14 truck that you see there is a very important one for us this weekend. It is not being driven by Jose Rodriguez, but is in fact being driven by Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, who is the son of Jose, grandson of Eduardo Rodriguez, who is also a truck racing driver. Back in 2016 at Jarama, those three made massive history in motorsport by becoming the first family and the first drivers to ever have 3 generations of one family racing in the same race at the same time. Jose has had a couple of races with us since then, in 2016, but he is now back with us for Zolder and ready to go. There you see the wonderful Scanias of Heinrich Clemens Hecker's racing team, and there you see the awning where the truck is not. He's out there on the circuit again for this weekend. Good to have him back with us after his schedule unfortunately clashed with Most, and the work schedule meant that he couldn't get out there on the circuit and take part. There's Shane Brereton in the Apollo Tyres TOR truck racing team. Just about gets it round and out of the paddock. It's quite the tight exit of the paddock there with that unit. There's the 66 of Jonathan Andre, of course, taking over from the late Anthony Janiak, who we lost just over a month ago now. And as Jonathan was just proving himself at Most and trying his very hardest, in terms of the points in the Promoters Cup, Jonathan has 14 to his name. He didn't score any outright points in the championship, but that's okay. He's just getting the experience and hoping to continue his racing career. There's Andreas and Christina. Our cameraman is going to jump on the golf buggy and go with them, and we'll potentially jump through the paddock and have a look with a bit more of a mobile view of the conditions. Very wet and miserable there at Zolder, but I know the Belgians and I know the Belgian fans. I've got a lot of friends over in Belgium, and they are all fantastic people, very enthusiastic. They love their motorsport, and I'm certainly hoping that they all have a good weekend of it as well. I think a few friends of mine are down there in the paddock this weekend as well. And you can see just how steep downhill the start-finish straight is there. If you look at the garages on the left and which bits of them are level, you can see it's almost like steps all the way down to turn 1. A lot of people always say it's not flat at all at Zolder, despite the fact that because everything is so compressed and so compact around here and tightly packed, it looks like it's all just a flat, really narrow, windy circuit, but there is a lot of undulation here actually, up and down. Everyone just making their way around now for the first time, coming into the pits actually. This is what they have to do, you see. They go out the back of the paddock, round the second half of the circuit, and then cut through into the pit lane before getting the session underway. There's no way to get them directly from the paddock through the back of the pit lane, or through the back of the garages into the pit lane at least. And we just wait now for everybody to take their necessary positions. All of their teams and personnel will be down there in the pit lane waiting to welcome them. And a number of the drivers will queue up at the end of the pit lane to get straight out and get on with this session. Because when the conditions are like this, then you can never guess or never guarantee what they're going to be like. Christine is down there, though, braving the conditions, having a look at what's going on.
Thank you, and I'm very curious if you got the Lumberjack t-shirt later on, which is important right now. Norbert Kisch lining up here. You see the lights are still red for us, and then soon we will see the qualification. Jochen Hahn is lining up after Norbert Kisch. And as you can see, we went by the golf buggy, but the teams, yes, they need to go by feet. Very brave indeed. Not us, but the teams. Good work so far.
Yes, indeed. Honestly, a lot of these team members and a lot of the personnel, you cannot keep them down at all. They work so hard through the course of a weekend. It's a very busy weekend as well when you're in truck racing, because everything is amplified in size and in weight. You know, all of the machinery and all the tools and everything you need for these machines are just so massive, and the logistics that go into it are incredible. can see a number of friends and personnel down there in the paddock. It's great to always see everybody, whether it be from me sitting here in the UK or whether I'm there in person. And there is Adam Latchcote, number 55. Adam didn't have too bad a weekend at Moss last time out, but he's going to be hoping for a bit more of a strong one this time round at Zolder. He was talking to Sean from Smart Witness. Of course, we have the Smart Witness cameras back in this weekend. We have them at every race meeting, though. I say that like they've been missing, but no. There is a look inside the cab of Adam Latchco's machine as he waits for Sasha Lenz to slot in just in front of him. There is Antonio Alberthetti, the number 23 from T-Sport Bernau. Antonio focusing on the task at hand. Had a big engine fire at Moss last week. And they're certainly going to be hoping that they do not have the same here. A new engine in the back of his MAN. It certainly went well on the... for the final race of the day, at least. The engine swap coming around very, very quickly with the very talented guys at T-Sport Bernau and with the help of a number of other teams and personnel from the paddock. But as I was going to say, Adam Latchco was speaking to Sean from Smart Witness. He's an absolute star, is Sean. We always have a good laugh. He said Adam Latchco's always thriving in wet conditions and he's always been confident in the rain because he started karting in the wet, age 7. He just says that because of how close all the walls are here at Zolder, they'll have to get very, very close to a lot of the track limits and be careful about where they push the limits. I think I can be forgiven for that one. There's not many circuits that have the name starting with Z. There is Jonathan Andre at the back of the pack. They go out in championship order by the look of it for this one, but Jose Eduardo Rodriguez cutting in front of Clemens Hecker there before they leave the pit lane. Everybody, by the look of it, making their way out. Just counting them now as they go around. I think we have 14 entrants for the weekend, all accounted for on the circuit. Good stuff. Now, in these wet conditions, you really get to see how bright the LED headlights are in the front of these trucks as well. They have them all mounted to the windscreen there, obviously out of harm's way, so any sort of contact on the the front corners to rear corners of other trucks means that they don't get knocked around. Sasha Lenz has them sort of in the middle of the dashboard there, like a pair of eyes staring through the mist. And look at that view there as they come up out of the Kleiner chicane over the crest that's known as Sacrament-Schelling, through turn 7 down as Butt, and then we have Villeneuve chicane here, turns 8, 9 and 10. The right-hander on the exit, Jochen Hahn flicking the back end sideways. Now this is one of my first experiences of the trucks racing at Zolder. My good friend Jack Werrell stepped in to commentate on the championship from this point last season, and a wonderful job he did as well. So I'm excited to watch this firsthand and live as well, to see exactly how all of these guys manage it. That is the tiny little hairpin down at turn 12, known as Boulderberg Bocht. Bocht basically meaning turn. And there is Jonathan Andre. Doesn't the 66 Lion Truck Racing Machine look absolutely glorious in these conditions? Look at the reflections on the surface as well. Looks absolutely stunning. There's our static camera looking over at the final chicane, the Jackie X Bocht. Turns 15 and 16. Final 2 corners on this wonderful windy circuit. Norbert Kish was barely in a straight line for any of that there as he puts the power down and starts his first qualifying lap of the weekend. Adam Latchco there ahead of Sasha Lenz with Antonio Alberthetti behind as well. And look at the dry line emerging as they go into turn 1. As Christina mentioned earlier on, they have the Dutch Racing Championship here this weekend, the Dutch Truck Racing Championship. There's a number of trucks out there on track over the course of the entire weekend. There's Jamie Anderson, currently second in the Promoters' Cup to Theo Calve. 8 points between the two of them. Theo Calve has qualified fastest out of the Promoters' Cup drivers 5 times this year. Jamie Anderson 4 times. But Jamie has 9 Promoters' Cup race wins to Theo's 7. He even has more podiums than Theo, 14 to 13. But The races where he's not been up there winning or finishing on the podium, Teo has been consistently scoring more. Now, Norbert Kish slowing down there out of the first chicane. Not sure if he's had some sort of problem and decided to abandon the lap, and he doesn't want to get in Jochen Hahn's way. We often see that the drivers do a fast lap and then they do a much slower middle lap before giving it another go, just to get everything cooled down and back to how they wanted it. So now that Norby realises that he's potentially messed up his lap, he's just going to slow it down now, chill out for a lap, get everything back into a good operating window, and then get going. Just listen to this. You can hear the wheel spin from Adam Lachko. It's unbelievable. Let's watch now down into the hairpin. Listen to it on the exit. Listen for the wheel spin. 1,200 brake horsepower these trucks are putting down into the road with over 5,000 Newton meters of torque. It's ridiculous torque figures. But you'll see just these tiny little slides over the course of the weekend as the drivers just kick the back end out slightly. And Jochen Hahn crosses the line to put the first fast lap on the board. It's a 2 minutes 14.8. Wow, they really are tiptoeing around here this weekend. Adam Lachko goes fastest, 2:13.1. We were saying he's fast in the wet, and he's over a second quicker now than Sasha Lenz in the Bagheera ZM Racing Freightliner. He took a race victory here last year as well in the wet conditions, did Adam Lachko. And apparently the Freightliner, with its weight distribution the way it is and the shape of it, works very, very well in these slippery conditions. We've seen it multiple times before. And certainly that is a definite example that it is a working formula, especially with Adam Lachko at the wheel. Jamie Anderson is the fastest Promoters Cup driver at the moment, ahead of Teo Calve. Shane Brayton's less than a tenth of a second, about 20 thousandths actually, 26 thousandths slower in 7th place overall. That's not bad going at all. Heinrich Clementecker and Jonathan Andre complete their laps as well. But there is your provisional pole position man, Adam Lachko. 2:13.141 isn't going to challenge any sort of lap record anytime soon, as you can probably imagine. The lap record around here in a racing truck is Norbert Kish's, and he set that last year, a 1:57.275, which, when you consider how windy and twisty this circuit is very, very impressive. So for the moment, it's Adam Lachko from Sasha Lenz, Jochen Hahn, then Antonio Alberthetti on row 2, then it's an All Promoters Cup row 3. But as the drivers get more and more confident lap after lap, they will continue to push harder and squeeze more performance out of their machine. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez currently leads the French Truck Racing Championship. He won all 4 races at the Nürburgring in that championship as well, by a long way. He is a very, very well-rounded racer. And he's only 24 years of age as well. Sorry, 23 years of age. He's a very fast young man. Still not the youngest on the grid, though. That goes the way of Teo Calve, as Norbert Kish goes fastest by 7 tenths, and Adam Lachko beats him. Amazing stuff. Norbert Kish goes fastest with 2:12.14, but then Adam Lachko does a 2:12.2. Amazing time. Sasha Lenz improves, goes third with a 2:12.8. Alberthetti has done a 2:13.2, sorry. Jochen Hahn 2:13.6. Then it's a 2:13.9 from Jamie Anderson. Andre Kurzim, as Teo Calve displaces him. Teo Calve's newest time, a 2 minutes 14.187. Some 1.9 seconds off pole position, but there will be a lot of variation in lap time with these conditions in mind. And look at the wet line that they're taking all the way around the outside of the corner. Try to get as much moisture as they can to really dig the tyres into the road and spread that water away. On board now with Steffi Helm. You can see the raindrops dancing on the windscreen. Steffi currently down in 12th position, 2:17.4 her best time. AC Jamie Anderson coming towards us. Hard onto the brakes into the first chicane. The Kleiner chicane. So tough. Watching GT cars and touring cars go over there is quite scary. They're very hesitant. They have to try and absorb the curbs as best they can. The Euro NASCAR Championship races around here as well, and those cars look like monster trucks when they go over those curbs. The wheels really dangle down with the incredibly soft suspension setups that they all have. There's Steffi Halm through the Villeneuve chicane. You can see just scrabbling for grip, just waiting for that front end to bite, hoping that it doesn't over-rotate. There is Jonathan Andre just chasing down Heinrich Clemens Hecker. I love the look of Heinrich's number 25 Scania. Great looking machine for Hecker Racing. Sounds good as well, doesn't it? There he comes down into the Villeneuve chicane. It always seems like he's got the brightest lights on the entire grid as well. It was something that we noticed at the Nürburgring. Even in the daylight, Heinrich Clemens Hecker seeming to have the brightest ones. There's Jonathan Andre, kicks the back end out of the 66. And again, as he goes through turn 10, look at it, just floating through shot completely sideways. Excellent entertainment, you have to say. And that is what's always guaranteed with the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Entertainment aplenty from these drivers. Adam Lachko is slowing down. I think he's decided that that's going to be that for this lap. He slots in between, I think that was Steffi Halm and his teammate Theo Calve, on the road at least. Yes, it was Steffi Halm. Now he's gone through the first corner and made sure that he's staying out of the way of Theo, and I think Theo has also decided to back out from the lap that he's on. Behind them was Shane Brereton. Shane currently 9th at the moment. Don't forget that the top 10 go through into Superpole after this, so we have another 10-minute session after this one where the drivers can then rearrange the order of the top 10 effectively. Anyone that finishes this session outside of the top 10 is basically locked there into place in the grid for race 1. So currently those under threat are Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, Steffi Halm, Jonathan Andre and Heinrich Clemens Hecker. There's Stefan Fass in the pit lane, his number 24 Scania. And they're working on something there towards the back end. Not quite sure what's being worked on though. Unless maybe they're actually draining some of the water out. These trucks can carry big, big water tanks, which they use to cool down the brakes. They spray water jets onto the brakes and onto the radiators as well. And obviously with the conditions being much cooler, they may actually just drain some of the water out of those tanks, so they're not carrying as much weight. We've seen it plenty of times before where someone will go out in the first qualifying session, do a decent lap, and then they know they don't really need to carry all of that extra weight for any sort of improvement laps at all. So they go into the pits, they drain it all out, and they go from there. But Adam Lachko, well, he doesn't have a pole position at all this season. 9 of them have gone the way of Norbert Kish. 1 has gone the way of Jochen Hahn. In his career, Adam Lachko has scored 19 pole positions so far, as Stefan Fass makes his way back out onto the circuit. Can Adam Lachko make it pole position number 20 here at Zolder? Norbert Kish comes into shot completely sideways. You've got to love that. Looks absolutely phenomenal. Baloo, the big red MAN, looks so mean and aggressive, doesn't it, coming towards us? Revesh Racing have done a massive amount of work on the front end of that truck to make it as aerodynamic as possible. Yes, really. Steffi Halm in the pits. There's a couple of others coming in as well. Looks like Adam Lachko's on his way down the pit lane. And is that Shane Brereton behind? No, it's Jamie Anderson just behind. Theo Calve is also in the pits. There is Adam Lachko pulling in. The number 55 machine remains on provisional pole position for now. Stefan Fass throwing it through the first chicane, completely sideways on the exit. Great commitment. Just saw Jamie Anderson coming in there as well. There is Theo Calve. The two Bagheera ZM Racing Freightliners right together. You get to see there as well the different highlights that they have on each of their trucks. The liveries are basically identical, except for a lot of the coloured highlights, which Theo has in a sort of mid-blue colour, and Adam Lachko has in a fluorescent yellow. You can see the two wing mirrors there as they park line astern. Steffi Halm makes her way back out of the pit lane. It's often considered quite a small pit lane at Zolder. Everything about this track is very compact and little. It's quite a treacherous pit exit as well. Look at all the standing water as Steffi makes her way back out onto the circuit. Seems like there's a number of them going into the pits to just have something checked or something changed before coming back out. I'd assume it's the water tanks because they don't have to actively cool them down as much. As there is Steffi now going through turn 4. The Lucien Bianchi bocht. No, I'm not losing my marbles. That's genuinely what it's called. Hard onto the brakes then on what is an outlap, so she won't be pushing at full capacity at the moment. But of course she wants to get back around as quickly as possible, and somebody that I imagine is going to try and get in some dry cover as soon as possible is Christina, who is down there doing the groundwork for us.
Yes, and I'm not doing the work. You see, the work is on the tires right now. Andre, how are the conditions here in the rain? Wie sind denn die Bedingungen hier im Regen?
Yes, here in Zolder it's very difficult. The gap between the barrier and the racetrack is very close, and yes, you have to be very careful here.
Do you need to soften or harden the truck?
Yes. Sorry, no, I understand you. I don't understand you.
Muss die Einstellung jetzt noch weicher oder doch noch mal härter werden? Woran schraubt ihr gerade?
Ja, wir müssen schon noch ein bisschen weicher werden. Im Regen ist ganz klar, aber wir müssen schauen, wo wir jetzt hinkommen.
Okay, alles klar. Danke. So yes, he said yes, it's very difficult conditions and they need to be softer doing with all the setup. Yes, you can see the tires actually, very less air pressure there. So I hope they get enough grip, but you got enough grip, Chaz.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm gripping my seat absolutely fine. Don't you worry. I'm not going anywhere right now. I'm excited to see how hard these drivers push before the end of the session and whether anybody actually will overdo it slightly. But yes, you're right. There were a few shots earlier as some of the trucks were coming around turns 1 and 2, and you could see the edges of the tyre bulging on where the truck was resting on them. Almost looked like they had flat tyres because they want them as soft as possible to keep them like, well, as much as they can be on rails around here. But look at this, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, the 23-year-old, absolutely flinging the back end of that number 14 machine out. He's an absolute star to watch. And he's been dominating the French Championship, as mentioned, hoping to bring his fantastic pace here into the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship as well. Steffi Halm flying down towards us. Now this time it's not an outlap. This is a full attack fast lap now for Steffi. Into the chicane. Kleiner chicane, turns 5 and 6, left then right. And then hard on the power over Sacrament Schelling. Down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Here is Jose Eduardo Rodriguez in the Rebo Connaught Racing machine. Across the line he goes. Is there an improvement? There is not. His fastest time is a 2:16.2. That lap was a 2:17.8, so he lost quite a lot of time by the look of it in the middle sector. He was a good second off his best time there in the middle sector. He goes back around turns 1 and 2 again, trying to keep it nice and tidy. You can see just how wet it is down there in the pit lane. There's one of the Bagheera machines being worked on, tyre pressures being adjusted. And I mentioned earlier the fact that everything is so big in these machines, even the tyres and their pressures, of course. And the operation of just changing the tyre pressure by just a little bit can be quite the task. It looked like to me there we had the T-Sport Bernau guys and also the Apollo guys for Shane Brereton waiting to welcome their drivers into the pits. Yes, Shane's just making his way then there on the left-hand side of shot. There are your top 10 qualifiers highlighted on the left. You can see who's going to make it through. One of them at the moment is Theo Calve, and he's down there with Christina.
Yes, one of the young guns, very difficult conditions right now. I think you will lose some pressure on the tires to be safer on the track. How was it driving in the rain?
Yeah, it's really difficult here, especially in Zolder with the rain, because you have all the walls really close to the track, so you really have to be careful. And yeah, but I like it. I start to like the rain, so I feel much more comfortable than before. And yeah, for me, it's still okay. Okay, the conditions are really hard, but it's also good when we have challenge like this.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Monsieur Parapluie, so he's Mr. Rain.
I'll try to remember that one, but it's interesting because certain drivers, as we heard there from Teo, certain drivers can really love the rain. You know, they can learn to absolutely thrive in it, and they can push and have the confidence. Other drivers just cannot get on with it at all. You know, they just really don't enjoy being out there in the rain, in the wet conditions, and the extra challenge that they provide. However, I think it's always exciting to see what every driver makes of it and how it shakes up the order as well. That's one thing that the rain can bring, is a very different order to proceedings. So across the line then goes Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. That was definitely a bit of a slower lap for him to get everything into the correct operating temperature. Heinrich Clemens Hecker next up, and then Jonathan Andre. These three drivers and Steffi Halm all at risk. You can see the dry line on the inside on the way into turn 2 there, as Heinrich Clemens Hecker goes much wider through turn 2, tries to hit the wet line. It's often that they'll come round turn 1, as we just saw Jonathan Andre do there, and then they'll go over to what would be the right-hand side of our shot, way out wide to the left, to then cut across the apex of turn 2 and into turn 3. But here, in these conditions, look, they're all taking very different lines. I mean, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez has clearly given up on his lap. He's sticking to the inside line now, getting out of the way of Heinrich Clemens Hecker, who, again, look, you tell me them headlights aren't brighter than everyone else's. They are blindingly bright as he makes his way towards us. We just wait to see now if he completes this lap and manages to improve enough to get into the top 10. He is 7.4 seconds off at the moment, though. He would need to find about 3.5 seconds. Actually, more than that, to be fair. He'd need to find 4.3 seconds on this lap just to get into the top 10. We've seen stranger things happen, though. And on his day, Heinrich Clemens Hecker can surprise a lot of people. So I'll keep my eye on the sectors and see what he can manage. Also, this man, Jonathan Andre, pushing hard in the MAN. Maybe a little bit too hard, though, as he goes straight over the gravel down at the Villeneuve chicane, and that's going to put pay to that lap, unfortunately. That's going to be one of the key parts of the circuit this weekend, that chicane. Some of the most confident drivers that we have on our grid will really be pushing down there, and they'll be going as hard as possible onto the brakes. Now begins one of the world's most difficult games of Tetris, because the organisers and the personnel down there in the pits have to try and sort these trucks into qualifying order for them to go out into Superpole, which often means reversing a number of them, moving some of them out of where their necessary pit boxes are, and so on. But because they're all already down at the far end of the pit lane, and where the last garage is basically where the pit lane exit line is, they're not going to be able to move any of them forward and bring them across the line. Heinrich Clemens Hecker crosses the line as well. His fastest time before this was a 2:19.772. He's done a 2:21.2 that time round, so no improvement, unfortunately, for him. He will remain 14th and currently last in qualifying. Jonathan Andre will cross the line, but of course went off at the Villeneuve chicane earlier on. His best was a 2:18.6 before that. Yes, this one comes up as a 2:33, so no improvement from him either. So a very busy session, an interesting session, which means that I think for the first time this season we lose Steffi Halm from qualifying. She does not make it through into Superpole. Steffi will start 12th on the grid behind Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. And I think for simplicity's sake, they're just keeping Jochen Hahn there, to be honest with you. Jochen will be the 5th truck out on track in this train. They do go out in qualifying order into Superpole, so there is a benefit to being fastest in the first part of qualifying, and that you are the first one out, you get a clear track ahead of you, and you can just get on with it. And I'm excited to see whether Adam Lachko can repeat another great lap time like we saw from him there. Pole position time for him at the moment, a 2:12 0.279 as things stand. We just now wait for Jonathan Andre to make his way in. He's going to just creep his way around now. And his session will come to an end, and him and the team can then go on to prepare for the first race of the day a little bit later on. Our show for the first race of the weekend will start around 20 to 2 local time in Belgium. About 20 to 1 in the afternoon if you are here in the UK with me. And then the second race comes not very long after that at all. Our show is due to finish about 3:10. And then the next show is going to start about 4:10. So not long at all between those two races. But now a bit of calm falls over the circuit. You can see the very odd effect of the water droplets jiggling away there. Wonderful view of the wind farms that tower over Zolder. That was Adam Lachko just waiting to get going. There is Norbert Kish in the red MAN, wearing the number 1 with pride, of course, after winning the championship in 2021, his third title in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. We've been told that the green light will come on any moment now as we hit 8 minutes past 11 local time in about 30 seconds. They will get them out and get them on the circuit once more to decide who will be on pole position and how the top 10 will all line up. And we're going to quickly hop back down to said pit lane to have a quick word with Christina.
Yes, because we just want to show you how close we are here in the pit lane. And I personally have not seen such a lineup before, because as we can see, Adam Lachko is in front, Norbert Kirsch is, as you said, Chaz, number 2nd, and Jochen Hahn is 5th, so he has to wait right now. And now they're getting started for the Super Pole. Back to you, Chaz.
Thanks very much, Christina. And yes, it's an interesting lineup indeed. It's odd to see Superpole getting underway and Norbert Kish not being at the front of it, to be fair, but great to see Adam Lachko back up there. He was the champion in 2017 of the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. He's been with us for 12 years as of this season. He scored 4 race wins on his debut back in 2011 as well. He's competed in all sorts, though, as Adam. He's a real hero back in Czechia, in the Czech Republic. He's competed in Spanish truck racing, the World Touring Car Championship, FIA GT and GT3 Championships. He's been in Carrera Cup, Lamborghini Super Trofeo, even the Skoda Octavia Cup. So Adam is a very well-rounded racer, and as you see from the fact he is 2017 champion, he's very good at what he does in a truck as well. 56 race wins in his career, over 160 podiums and over 400 race starts. And he's a really nice guy as well, I'll tell you what. He's always good fun to speak to. He's always got a positive outlook on the race weekends ahead as well, and he gets excited about every circuit we go to for many different reasons. He's a man that just loves his racing at the end of the day. So the Promoters' Cup fight is very much on as well between Theo Calvé, Jamie Anderson, and Shane Brereton is still up there in the championship fight with them. He's got 185 points to the 213 of Anderson and 221 of Theo Calvé. He's still within touching distance, considering how many points are available for the season. It's 60 points per race meeting, and after this there are 2 race meetings still left to go. So it is all still to play for there. Theo Calvé leading that championship by just 8 points over Jamie Anderson. Jamie's resurgence after having that big engine change at Slovakia Ring has been amazing. You know, that truck has been developed so well. Look at the speed that Adam Lachko does down here, out of the Jochen Rindt-bocht down towards Jackie X-bocht. This narrow straight with walls very close either side, and it feels like a very fast open top tunnel. It's very cool. I've raced a lot round here in the simulator. On a simulator I use called iRacing, they have a very well laser scanned version of Zolder. I've commentated on a couple of the 24 hours of Zolder over on the simulator as well. It's a wonderful circuit, always generates great racing. It's fantastic to see trucks racing around here though, because of how narrow and how short this place is. You wouldn't expect the trucks to get on well round here, to be honest with you. You'd think they'd be too big for it. Norbert Kiss just had a hell of a moment into turn one, you know, kicked the back end out a lot. And you can see just how much time physically he's lost to Sasha Lenz behind him. Sasha's pushing very hard in the first sector, but look at Adam go. It's like a man possessed. It's honestly like he's got webbed feet. Just on it, absolutely on it is Adam Lachko. There's Theo Calve going around as well. Andre Kurzim, Shane Brereton and Stefan Faas behind him. As no wonder the camera's looking over there. Jochen Hahn has gone straight on at turn 2 before turn 3. Now a lot of them are running very wide around turn 2 and they're right on the edge of the circuit. So it doesn't surprise me that we've already seen somebody just clip that grass and gravel on the outside and go way, way off into the barrier. I did wonder what was happening to the cameraman, but very well done on picking that one up. As, oh no, that looks like Adam Lachko's gone straight on into the chicane. He goes very deep into the first part of it. You could just see him snatch a break, and look how early Norbert Kish was turning in there to when the truck was actually rotating. There was a big delay. I tell you what, you think racing in the wet is difficult in most machines, but try it in a truck. You could see the input delay there when Norby actually just turned the wheel. You could see the wheels turning into the corner, and then the truck just wasn't moving at all. It's a real art form to race these things in the first place, never mind in the wet on a circuit that's got some very tight chicanes like this one. They've got 3 tight chicanes and a hairpin to deal with around this lap. There is Jochen Hahn continuing on. Didn't look like he had any major damage or anything. And you can see that definite dry line and where all the water's been pushed away down the start-finish straight. Massively exaggerated, of course, by the trucks. So, Lachko in qualifying 1 did a 2 minutes 12.279. What's he going to do this time round? He crosses the line now. 2:15.322 for Adam Lachko. 2:15.6 for Norbert Kish. 2:15.0 for Sasha Lenz. A great time by Sasha. 3/10 clear at the moment. Alberthetti goes 4th. Calve now goes 4th. Theo Calve with a 2:15.731. Great lap from him. Now expect to see Norbert Kish improve on that one, because let's not forget he had that big mistake at turn 1 last time. He's going to want to make up for that this time round. As sideways, there goes Sasha Lenz, kicking the back end out once more. We do have a very jumbled up order compared to what we normally see. Alberthetti 9th, Jochen Hahn 10th. Good to see Shane Brereton back in a Super Pole session as well. He's had a bit of a lull in the middle of his season, unfortunately. He's had a lot of bad luck as well. So he's been trying to push as best as he can. And Christine is back down there with some news for us from the pit lane.
Yes, and Clemens Secker has got his racing shoes on. Unfortunately, in which condition are your shoes right now?
Wet.
How does that come? Windscreen not really... I mean, where did it came in? Here, obviously. Look at that. It's really moisture in here.
It comes from the windscreen, from the doors, from the ground. So we clean it all the time before I leave the paddock, but after a lap it's wet, so...
This is not the only thing that is really difficult. Also, of course, the curves here and the barriers are very close nearby. How do you deal with this condition?
We try to do the best. So for me, the hard thing is to feel the front wheel between it's rolling or it's staying. So when it stays, you go straight, you can steer. And to get this feeling, so it's my first time with this track in a wet condition. I love this track, but just in dry conditions, so I hope it will dry up tomorrow.
Maybe. Thank you very much. And Chaz, you've got dry shoes. Isn't that interesting that it's kind of a mini pool right now here in the Minna, the truck from Clemens Secker?
Yeah, it's interesting that so much moisture actually gets into those machines. It's quite amazing. So too amazing is Norbert Kish, who's just gone at 2 minutes 12.9 and goes faster than Sasha Lenz and Adam Lachko. Lachko does a 2:13.1 that time round. That's 9/10 slower than he went in the first part of qualifying. Antonio Alberthetti currently 4th. Teo Calvé is 5th. Jamie Anderson improves but does not go faster than Teo Calvé, and that's important in the Promoters' Cup as well if Teo can start one position ahead of him on the grid. Now here's Jochen Hahn. He's sure to jump up the order, but how far? Only up to 7th place. Wow, he's about 300 slower than Jamie Anderson. It's a 2:15.8 for Jochen Hahn. Maybe just lacking that little bit of confidence around the first sector after that off earlier on. Now look, you can see how the line goes very close to the edge of the circuit. It looks like they're actually off the circuit there based on how the grass is compared to our camera. You can see Jochen pushing very hard around turn 3. And there is Adam Lachko pushing on once more. There's all the teams watching in one of the garages. Hello, everybody. Get a wave as well from Tim Frost for a minute there. And there goes Adam Lachko once more round turn 11 at the Telemann-Bocht. Before going over the crest at the left-hander, he's going to appear on the right-hand side of your shot now. Listen to that. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Hard onto the brakes into turn 12, the Boulderberg-Bocht. Very tight hairpin, nowhere near the apex. They're running around the outside wet line on the circuit there. There is Jochen Hahn once more into the Villeneuve chicane. Swinging it this way and that. The back end trying to continue on and disappear off into the forest. And we look now over the crest at the start-finish line, and who is going to emerge first? Of course, Adam Lachko. Across the line he goes. His time in Quali 1 was 2 minutes 12.279. He needs to get faster than that to beat Norbert Kish right now as well. What is the time that he puts on the board? It's a 2 minutes 13.154. It's almost an identical time to what he did before. No improvement either from Norbert Kish. Actually, there was a slight improvement. It's showing that he's done a 2 minutes 12.330, you know. I think he's just done identical lap times. No, he has improved by a hell of a lot, actually. That's just changed on my screen now, and of course on the left-hand side. 7 tenths clear. Norbert Kish. Andrei Kurzim puts in a decent time. 2:15.535 goes ahead of Jamie Anderson. That's great for the Promoters' Cup for Teo Calvé, as well as Jochen Hahn goes up into 5th place now. Teo Calvé will have now a truck at least between him and Jamie. They'll be starting on the same side of the grid if it continues that way, but after what looked like not the most promising Quali 1, Norbert Kish has pulled out a lap time that is good enough to put him on pole position. Lachko nearly a second slower than the time that he did in qualifying 1. And Norbert Kish, well, he's actually gone slower than Lachko went in qualifying 1. Lachko did a 2:12.279. So there's only about 600s in it, but it's still slower at the end of the day. As there is Sasha Lenz. He's currently 2nd fastest as well. He's done a 2:13.063. His last lap was a 2:13.9 though, so clearly not quite up to scratch in the middle sector, it looked like. But Norbert Kish is purple in all 3 sectors. He's actually gone purple in sector 1 on this lap as well. His sector 2 time, 49.1. That's about 3 tenths off the fastest middle sector anyone's done. Sasha Lenz has actually just matched the 2nd sector fastest time as well. So all 3 of these drivers at the very front still continuing to put in impressive times. Lachko, to be fair, doesn't look like he's going to improve here. He's about 4 tenths off in sector 1 alone. He does his fastest time, and it's mere thousandths, 11 thousandths slower than Sasha Lenz, and Norbert Kish absolutely decimates the morale. 2 minutes 12.077. Improves at the line once more. Sasha Lenz improves as well. 2:12.366. And just to add insult to injury, Alberthetti goes 3rd fastest right at the end. 2:12.909 for the MAN. Makes it 1-2-3 for MAN. Teo Calvé jumps up into 5th position at the end. A 2:13.694. Goes ahead of Jochen Hahn. Fantastic time by Teo Calvé. He's top of the Promoters' Cup in this qualifying session so far. Let's see who else jumps up as they cross the line now. Jamie Anderson has done his fastest lap most recently as well. So too has Andrei Kurzim. Jamie Anderson did a 2:14.634. Not as quick as Jochen Hahn's 2:14.4. And there you have it. Everyone has completed their times, and it is going to be Norbert Kish that will start on pole position, and that is going to be the 10th pole position of the season for the Hungarian. He certainly wasn't down for long, was he? After getting beaten in qualifying 1 by Adam Lachko. Sasha Lenz will start second on the grid, with Alberthetti and Lachko once again locking horns on the second row of the grid. Teo Calve take a bow, 5th place overall, ahead of Jochen Hahn. Fantastic time by Teo. He was saying earlier to Christina that he was getting more and more confident in the wet conditions, and that is definite proof that he is more happy with how things are currently. And it's a big old challenge for these drivers around here, but they've done an amazing job. And they should all be very, very chuffed with their respective performances. It'll be interesting to see if the conditions do stay the same for the races later on today. We have 2 of them coming your way. The first show for which will start about 20 to 2 in the afternoon local time, 1:40. And then the second race show will start about 4:05 local time, 3:05 if you're in the UK this weekend, like yours truly. There you see the pit lane now. The drivers will be escorted back around into the back of the paddock. But there is your result. Norbert Kish, fastest with a 2 minutes 12.077 ahead of Sasha Lenz, Truck 2, P2. Antonio Alberthetti gets 3rd place on the grid ahead of Adam Lachko, who will be hoping for a much better race after being fastest in qualifying 1. Teo Calve will line up 5th alongside Jochen Hahn, with Jamie Anderson and Andre Kurzim on the 4th row of the grid. Stefan Fast and Shane Brayton make it into Superpole, and they will line up on row 5 in 9th and 10th. Behind them, we will have Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, Steffi Helm, Jonathan Andre, and Heinrich Clemens Hecker, who will round out the field. And Frank the Tank will drive the Iveco back round and guide everyone through into the paddock behind the pit lane. It's nice to see this part of proceedings as well, because there's no direct way to get the trucks into the paddock from the pit lane, so they have to take to the circuit, drive around, and then enter the paddock from the other side. And then hopefully soon we will get a word from some of our drivers on what they thought of that session. And I'm sure Christina will be on her way to whatever necessary position she needs to be to go and have a chat with these drivers, or where they will all meet afterwards. And there you see Jochen Hahn in the number 4 machine, not the session he would have wanted, finishing 6th behind Teo Calve and Adam Lachko as well in the 2 Freightliners. There is your pole man, Norbert Kish. As mentioned, his 10th pole position of the season. Now, let's not forget, only pole positions from qualifying get counted as a pole position towards a driver's statistics. If you get put on pole position as part of a reverse grid, it doesn't count towards the overall figures. So that's why you may be thinking, hang on, there's been 20 races so far, how's he done 10? Well, that's because he can't get pole in the reverse grid races, because he's usually winning the first races of the day. In fact, actually, if I just take a quick look through it while we are on air here, I'm just going to have a look at the championship standings at the moment and just confirm whether... no. Okay, so obviously each day in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, we have 2 races each day. We have the first one, which has its grid determined by qualifying, and then the second one, which is the top 8 from the first race, reversed on the grid. All except one race this year, which has been the first race of the day, Norbert Kish has won. He won races 1 and 3 at Misano, the Hungaroring, Slovakia Ring, and then at the Nürburgring he won races 1, and that was it. Actually, he won race 1 and then finished 4th in race 3, because he had I believe it was a black smoke rule actually came into effect, and he was pulled from qualifying, and Jochen Hahn got a pole position and won that race. So all except one so far this season is Norbert Kisch's record for the first races of the day. As mentioned, Jamie Anderson has won the last 3 reverse grid races as well. He won the pair of them at Most, and of course he won the final race of the day at the Nürburgring. Now, I was looking back through the facts and figures of Zolder and its history with the European Truck Racing Championship a little bit earlier on, and the biggest race-winning margin we've seen since 2008 was here at Zolder, and it was 32.171 seconds, and that was race 3 in 2010. It's trying to catch up with who the winner of that race was, because I don't think it was somebody currently on the grid, but unfortunately couldn't quite find the exact race report on that one to say who had come out with the win. You can see a number of the production cars making their way around the circuit. Belgian fans all stationed at the many corners around this wonderful track. There's some fantastic viewing points here as well. And if you ever do get a chance to visit Zolder, I certainly urge you to do so. And here come the trucks back into the paddock now. Antonio Alberthetti there with Teo Calve and Jamie Anderson just behind. I must admit, I love the look of those Bagheera ZM Racing Freightliners. They are fantastic machines. Try not to run over the fans, Jamie. We need those. You can see, look at the caster angle there on Jamie's truck. That's unbelievable. It was almost 45 degrees. When he turns the wheel completely to the left, the wheel just leans over really far. That's to make sure they get the biggest contact patch they can when they're racing. Obviously, the truck leans the wheels. It's almost like giving it negative or positive camber when they turn in, but the caster angle helps the wheel stay flat to the ground, even if the weight of the vehicle is leaning over in the opposite direction. The gravity is pulling it away from the road surface. Doesn't look like it's raining as much anymore, anyway, from what I can see on my screen. So hopefully the remaining races will be in conditions that aren't as terrible. But the drivers have quite a while now to get prepared. Nearly 2 hours until the next race. We've got about an hour and 40 minutes before they will be called and ready to get going. There is Antonio Alberthetti, just in front of our golf buggy, just manoeuvring his machine back into their awning. That's an art form in itself, to be fair. Top work, as always, from the T-Sport Bernau squad. Really good bunch of guys. There's Richard Keimberger on the left-hand side, our wonderful photographer. You'll see a lot of all of his pictures on our website, on GoodyearFIAETRC.com. Had a bit of a revamp of the website as well at the start of this season, and it looks absolutely wonderful now, with all of the Goodyear branding and Goodyear colours adorning it. But now we just wait to see whether we can have a quick chat with some of our drivers after that very interesting qualifying session that certainly shook things up quite a bit. But Norbert Kisch takes another pole position. 9 poles before this weekend, and 10 poles now. He's got 11 race wins so far this season. As mentioned, they were all race 1s of the weekend. And then he had a win in, I think it was race 3. Oh, it was race 4 at the Hungaroring that Norbert won, actually. He won it ahead of Jochen Hahn. And he also won the final race of the weekend at Slovakia Ring as well. So he's shown that even if he starts 8th on the grid, he can still win these races. It's very, very impressive. Now, the onboard shot there from Steffi Helm's truck makes it look even worse than it actually is, doesn't it? I've just been told that we have Christina ready down there with an interview. Antonio Alberthetti sorts the red tape out, doesn't he? Quite a good session from Antonio, finishing 3rd on the grid.
Yes, absolutely. Red tape because it's Park for May time, obviously. Antonio Alberthetti, congratulations. Great timing here. 3 MIN in the top 3 positions and in this quite nasty conditions.
Yeah, it was difficult conditions. And also yesterday we have a little bit of problems, we have to change the axle. So I lose one of the sessions and, this morning we have to try everything in the warm-up again. but luckily everything was good. So finally we can make a free trouble practice, just some troubles with the driving. I have sometimes a little bit off the line, because it was very difficult. If you go off the line, there was so much wet in some places that you miss the line. But anyway, we are happy with the third place, and I hope we can do a good race today.
Absolutely on fire, but luckily not this time the truck. As you remember, in Most, the engine was set on fire, but now it's just the team, and you're burning for some points.
Yeah, they did a very fantastic job. No, also my team. Other teams that help us to change the engine, and it was a shame in Most because we also were in a good pace. But we have to forget the past. We have to concentrate in the future, and now we have to concentrate in the next race.
Absolutely. The next race, the first race this weekend, please tune in 20 to 2. We'll start our live broadcast with, of course, you driving then. What are your objectives for this race?
Well, it's going to be difficult to keep the truck in the road. So that's the first thing, I think if you keep the truck on the road, it will be good. We see what happens, To finish third will be very good. I know that Laco is behind, so he will be quite fast also. So it will be difficult to hold Laco if it's raining a lot. But I will try to fight as much as I can.
Thank you very much, Antonio Albacetti. So he's in a good mood right now, Chaz. We are on fire, absolutely, this weekend in Zolder. Yes, a bit rainy, but isn't that fun watching the giant trucks on the road back again? It is.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to have them all out there in wet conditions as well. To see them all struggling a little bit may seem a little bit mean, but it's actually quite interesting just to see how well the drivers all cope with these conditions. As mentioned before, it can really jumble up the order quite a lot, makes it a very interesting race day when we never know who's going to thrive and who might struggle with conditions different to what we usually get. We've had a lot of race weekends this season that have been absolutely red hot. Some of them even, and I'm talking Slovakia ring, nearly 40 degrees Celsius on both days. Drivers really struggling with the tyres and with the temperatures as well. There you can see Antonio Albacetti and Norbert Kisch's trucks together in the paddock. Those two are teamed up once again this season as Revish and T-Sport. Last season they were Team Titan and won the team's championship. And I think Antonio is going to be hoping that Norby can wrap up the Drivers' Championship so they can go for that team's championship once again, Christina.
We're standing here in front of Team Reves, and what a battle it was. Adam Lachko was trying very, very hard in the qualifying, but then in Superpole it was finally Norbert Kisch. Let's have a look at the sum up of this qualification. Those were the highlights of the Superpole and qualification, and those are the highlights here. We wanted to show you this, how is it called, Convoy Exceptionnel here in Belgium. Really good to see all those as a chess. It's something for you, a Freightliner. Isn't that a beauty? And it is yellow, like the sun. So, but we are looking ahead right now. Race number 1 is coming up at Zolder. Please tune in at 22:02, and we're going to say goodbye until then and have a look at those beauties. And please don't forget to set the alarm clock. Lots of action going to happen, and we are really looking forward for this race weekend, number 6 of the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. So, and I will just enjoy those beauties. Bye-bye.